Hey guys, another day, another victory. Today's Bible verse is going to be coming from 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 9 through 11, and it reads, "We are workers together for God, and you are like a farm that belongs to God, and you are like a house that belongs to God. Like an expert builder, I built the foundation of that house. I used the gift that God gave me to do this. Others are building on that foundation, but everyone should be careful how he builds. The foundation has already been built. No one can build any other foundation. The foundation that has already been laid in Jesus Christ." So, as you see, guys, we have a brand new space. It's very nice. We got the logo on the TV here. I'm so excited. This is something I've definitely been working towards using for basically the past 3 weeks ish. So that was really helpful also with this little break we took for the past 2 weeks, just making sure I'm able to use this space. And I'm so thankful once again to the communication department for allowing me to use this space. So we already read today's scripture, and basically the title of this video is Faith and Foundations. Now, I know I promised a part two. So if you haven't watched part one, the link is going to be in the description, so you can go and watch that. But picking up where we left off, so many things has happened. First things first, we were talking about the Divine Nine, the Black Brulee, Freemasonry, and how all of that is tied together. And the main point that I was going with that, y'all, is the simple fact of this all has something to do with the election that previously just happened. Now, I know I said I promised a part two, and this is still a part two. But to be honest with y'all, the reason there's supposed to be a part two is because the camera literally died on us like 2, 3 weeks ago. And so I was like, I record it later instead of recording it right then, and that was on me. But mainly I was leading up to explaining how this has everything to do with the election that has previously just happened. And a lot has happened. Now, personally, yes, if you follow me on Instagram, and like Instagram notes, I did some trolling activity. And it's not one of my proudest moments because it didn't really exemplify or show how I truly felt. I know how my podcast, I've been sharing how I genuinely align a little bit more with the Republican ideas, and that I am not taking back. I'm not refusing that. That is something I definitely stand in. But as far as saying, like, oh, I just love Trump, that's not where I was going. Yes, I emphasize how much I don't like Kamala, but it wasn't necessarily that I love Trump or him personally or his person, but I love everyone. It was the fact that I was just excited that he won and seeing a lot of other black people appreciate that. Because, guys, I mean, I'm not afraid to say this one. I think it's some serious mind control that black people align themselves so much with the Democratic Party. Like, a lot of people don't even know Martin Luther King Jr.'s first name is actually Michael. Because this is not things that just teach us in school. And this is the faith and foundations part. Like, having faith, I realize it's so much harder than people think. And that's where that foundation comes in at. Like, what are we being taught? What are we learning? What is the information we're obtaining? That matters. And especially as a black community. And this is why I said, why does everybody want to be a rapper? Because you see nowadays that most black people end up wanting to be a rapper or in that element. Um, in this past weeks of sabbatical, I went to the Rod Wave concert for his album Last Lap, and just to give y'all some context, my first secular concert was Taylor Swift Eras Tour. Okay, so I'm thinking we got to be there super early. Lines are gonna be long and all this stuff. No, it was not that at all. It was very, very much different. Like people were smoking in the arena. Not saying that they were supposed to be doing that, but that's what was happening. Like this was just a lot. It was a lot going on. And it wasn't that I didn't have fun because I did enjoy myself. I was with friends and I enjoyed myself. But that made me think again because it was a moment in the concert where I just had to sit down and I was watching all my other fellow black people around me. And it was to the point of like, you relate to this. And yes, Rod Wave, in some ways, his lyrics can correlate to what I may like about Taylor Swift songs. I can understand how Rod Wave's music translates to them because he says some really deep things, just like no matter what people say. Taylor Swift can translate to her audience. She says really deep things. And I think for me, being black, being a black woman, a woman of color, all those different titles, I was sitting there and I was like, wow, this is kind of it was interesting for me because I also got a chance to really explore Memphis, Tennessee, and I got to go visit where Martin Luther King passed away. Now, y'all, we've been on this spin about the Divine Nine and everything. Right next to that motel is a lodge. I'm not saying that has something to do with it, but I'm saying it has something to do with it. But I don't know. I feel like one day I'm gonna go on like a Freemasonry lodge tour. I probably should have said that out loud. Anyway, it's not the point. The point is, sitting in that atmosphere in that space, it was kind of like, why do they feel like they have to do this or put themselves in this situation to express their feelings? Why do we feel like we have to be high or drunk to express our feelings? And this is something I understand. Like, I've fallen victim to just being completely transparent. And I think for me, that's the why. And that's where I want my podcast to go into that direction of really understanding the behavior of Black women, men, children, understanding that and why we do it. Because the foundation of this is way beyond slavery and what we're taught. Like it's way deeper than that. And it's about how we choose to go about those things. So that's my spiel. So to anyone that I may have offended by what I put on my notes on Instagram those weeks ago, I'm sorry. Because I know that came across super out of context. Now, again, not sorry about who won, the Republican Party winning, because that is more so what I aligned with. But I am sorry of the trolling aspect because that doesn't set me apart at all. That's me just falling victim into doing what everyone else is doing. So that I do apologize for. So let's move on to the next topic. So the next thing I want to bring up is what is the 4B movement? I don't really know. I think I've heard that it's women saying they're not going to date or marry or have relations with men. And I feel like this happened because of the election, I'm pretty sure. But, don't quote me on that. And plus, there'll be a disclaimer just in case I'm wrong.
No sex with men, no dating men, no getting married to men, and no having children. These are the things some women in the US are promising to do in response to Donald Trump winning the election. It's inspired by the 4B movement.
If y'all insist on making women second-class citizens, we don't have to give you our body.
4B was started by women in South Korea. It's a feminist idea guided by 4 Korean words beginning with B. Byeon means no heterosexual marriage, Bichul-san means no giving birth, Byonye means no dating, and Biseksur means no sex. The women in the movement say it's a way to fight against the patriarchy and misogyny, and that's why women in the US, who are worried about what could happen to abortion rights and reproductive freedoms under Trump's presidency, are signing up. They say it's a way to protest, keep themselves safe, and take back control over their bodies.
We have to take it back by limiting who we give our bodies to.
And with all this talk of reproductive rights, it's no coincidence The Handmaid's Tale has shot to the top of Amazon's best-selling books list since Trump's re-election. Trump said he won't make abortion illegal nationwide, but he has supported individual states bringing in their own bans. Do you think the 4B movement will take on?
This is interesting to me as well because I guess I said we're changing topics, but I guess we're really not. I don't understand I didn't get my way, so that's it. I'm not doing anything. And that's weird because in the same way of saying you're not going to have relations with a man because of how the election ended up happening, I don't get it. I feel like both parties, there's an extremeness of not bringing forth fruit, right? It's like, oh, I just want to be able to just abort at any cost just to do it. And I'm just actually actively not going to even engage in the act to bring forth fruit. And I'm all for that one. If that's what you feel like you have to do, than just getting rid of the child. But again, we already talked about that. But I think for me, that's a tricky that's a tricky thing that we're experiencing here. And again, it also goes back to what is the foundation of that? Like, what is the foundation of a lot of these things? Because I feel like sometimes, even when I get Bible verses for my podcast episodes, we see that I myself am taking things out of context because I'm not fitting to sit here and read you all the whole chapter. Y'all get bored. Like, I might get bored. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I'm reading to you what I think will align or back me up on how I feel. And I think that's the main thing that happens, period, in the world, and especially in America, that we pick and choose what we want to use out of the Bible and how it can back me up in my stance and my point, and how it helps me feel good about it and reassures my answer. And there's so many different ways that I could show that in many different cases. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm not going to sit here and tell someone completely how they feel is wrong. Even though I may not align with it, I've been told how I feel is wrong, like multiple times throughout my life. But I try, and y'all call me out. I try my best to not do that to people. I just try to keep questioning them because I don't understand their way of thinking, just like they may not understand my way of thinking. And I've just noticed and took notes throughout the selection that how it's kind of been bark, bark, bark down people's throats that didn't choose to vote for the Democratic candidate. And that's interesting to me. Now, I can't say what would happen if it was the other way around. I really couldn't. But I feel like on that day, everyone was just so distraught. And this past weekend, my birthday weekend, and I shared some important information about my life with one of my really closest friends. She's basically like my sister. And I've shared some really important information with her that I felt I was ready to share with her. Which I thought I'd already shared with her about, but I guess it, but anyway, so that's what. And her response, I mean, a lot of people's response to it is usually on the upper, like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. And hers is still like that, but it was also like, oh, well, if that makes you happy. And I questioned that because I was like, well, what do you mean by if that makes me happy? So if that makes you happy, self explanatory. I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, it is. And then her immediate question was, I don't know how that aligns with your political views, though. And that's something, it hit me. That hit me in the core because I find myself always being put into these boxes all of the time. And that's hard for me, which is the whole reason I created this podcast so that I could talk through things. I may say something last season and I may come right back to it this season or even next season, and I have a different perspective about it because I'm a human just like everyone else. And it was hard because it was like, well, I feel like I guess I have to align with this party because I feel this way and I'm moving this way in my life. But I don't have to. I don't have to. And it wasn't a negative thing of what she said, but it helped me realize that's how most people think. And I think many times that's how I even think. It's kind of like, oh, you have to be okay with this because you're okay with this. And it's like, no, it's not that. Because the more you learn things and you gain knowledge, as we talked about before, you have to apply that in your life. And that's when wisdom happens. See, a lot of us walk around with knowledge, as I say many times, but we don't use wisdom. We don't even use practical wisdom about simple things. And I've had many conversations with many different friends about things that go on in the world, in life. And I think I continuously amaze them because it's like, I just don't rock the same way everyone else rocks. But yet, in the same headspace, I can understand. And I'm trying to understand. And I want to hear feedback from other people. I think one recent conversation, like a lot of times, the main conversation I've been having with myself because of my own personal journey is with the LGBTQ plus community. And like I said, the lesbian, the gay, the bisexual part of it, that's the part I tend to understand and I deal with a lot more because that is my personal journey. But when it gets to the transgenderism part of it, or just not saying that you're a he or a she, that's when I get a little bit not even confused, guys. Because me saying I'm getting confused, that's me sugarcoating. I'm not getting confused. I'm just not in agreement with it, because I can't sit here and say, Lord, you didn't make me the way you intended to make me. Now, yes, I get it, like with lesbianism or being gay and all of those different things, there's the same argument for that. And that's why I'm doing my own personal walk with God on that one, and reading my Bible and reading other sources on that one. But then when it comes to the point of where we're purely just saying, yeah, I think God made a mistake and he didn't make me this way, like it was an accident, I can't get with that one. And I see how that's like, well, how can you be a true outlier? How can you be put yourself in this box? And the point is, I'm not trying to put myself in this box. And I guess my message for today, because I'm not trying to go around the world and be long winded, is don't put yourself in a box, because you don't have to. Like, you have to have your own relationship with Christ. You have to walk into that. And when he convicts you for something, then that's when he convicts you for something. And I'm not telling you keep stealing until God tells you it's wrong. Like, no, that don't even make any sense. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But all I'm saying is there's moments in our life where we feel like we have to align with how other people around us, other people that we love the most, think. And it drives us crazy. Like, it drives us insane. And you can't do that. Like, you can't live your life doing that. And y'all, I'm trying to teach myself that now. And I'm 22 now. And I'm literally trying to teach myself that. And I find myself being in the space of questioning, am I an adult? Like, what does that look like, even being an adult? So, guys, I know I was talking about a lot. As you see, TV went off. And I was having issues fixing it. So, whatever I say, we're trying to leave that one there. And if it comes back, it comes back. But the main thing, as I was saying, that I want to get across in this episode, titled Faith and Foundations: understand your foundation, apply it in your faith. Okay? I feel like this is hard to do, especially being Black women, even young Black women. Like, nowadays, these teenagers that are adults, that are adult teenagers, it's crazy to me. But and I found myself judging them a lot. But I think I've realized it's just their life experiences. It's the foundation that's been laid for them. And it's all about how they're going to move throughout their faith in life and the relationships that they make, how they're going to grow from that. I think that's something that is important to realize and understand. And I have this one particular young lady in my head, and I just want to know I love her so much. And sometimes life forces us to grow up faster than we may want to or intend to. But y'all, I know I just went all over the world, but I'm just glad to be back. I'm glad that I feel like we have, what, 3 or 2 more episodes of this season? I'm not even sure. But again, life is life. Life is hard. We're all going to disagree on things, but it's always about coming to an acceptable. And sometimes that is easier said than done. But if we're all humans and we all strive for love, or glorifying the Lord, or just being positive towards each other, we'll find a way to do that. And with that, our song for the week is called Get It Together by India Ari. Love this woman. Love her music. Go take a listen to it. And with that being said, always remember, be, stay, and remain encouraged.